Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining us. Today, we're back with freelance editor Jolie Hobbs. Hey, Jolie, thanks for joining us.
Hi, Sophia. Thank you. Glad to be here.
Glad to have you back. And today, I want to discuss copy editing. So, let's talk a little bit about common typos. Do you use specific tools or techniques to catch typos and spell check errors in the novels that you edit?
Aside from your, MS spell checker, that kind of thing, and Grammarly obviously is one, but my brain in a dictionary, you can't really beat that. I prefer the Merriam-Webster's Collegiate Dictionary. I don't assume that the spelling of less common words, I don't assume that I know them, so I will look them up just to be safe. But yeah.
And how do you handle repeated typos throughout a story?
So correcting the typos is the name of the game in copy editing, and that's my job. But to your point, when you come across repeat issues, I will make margin comments too, and just to help the writer know or identify for themselves, because I think that writers want to do their best and they want to learn from their experience with their editor, and learn how to, produce a better first draft. So if there are things that stand out and repeat, I do point those out to the author. A word of caution, though, nobody wants their finger wagged at them. When I want to highlight something for an author that I think they can benefit from learning, I might say, I double checked this word in Merriam and it looks like the common spelling is this, so I'm changing it throughout your document. Another way that I address it is to phrase it as a question. What do you think about using this word instead? The truth is editors need editors. So I try not to presume that my way is the right way. I research a lot and I lean on valid resources to educate other people, and I try to be as gentle as possible.
And what would you say are the common grammar mistakes that you often see?
Things that spell checkers don't catch. So there's words like affect and effect. Spell checker's not going to catch that, or you are and your. There, and there, they are. So those are very common. And that's when a good copy editor and a good proofreader are gonna, be your hero on those things. Other things include pronoun use and just matching. If you're using a singular pronoun or a singular noun, match that to a singular pronoun and plural and plural. That really trips people up because conversationally, again, we don't do that conversationally, but in writing, it matters. Of less importance, I think, but still common are split infinitives. I do not have a big dog in this fight, because technically split infinitives is not grammatically incorrect. It's just something that's advised against. And the reason it's advised against is for the reader's benefit. Not splitting your infinitives promotes clarity. So for everybody out there who wants to write things like, she angrily left the party, knock yourself out.
And how would you ensure that spelling is consistent, especially with words that have multiple accented forms? For example, American English versus British English.
That one is easy. So most spell checkers are going to allow you to select a language, and you just need to remember to switch back and forth. I'm guilty of spelling gray in the British the British
Yeah, me
version.
too.
Instead of an A, I use an E, and it's just, I don't know. I learned it when I was young. Why? I don't know. So that's when the spell checker helps me as an editor catch that, because I do it without even thinking. If an author prefers specific spelling, which is not uncommon, it's best to create a style guide. That's something that your editor can help with. As I edit, I'll start jotting down questionable or unusual words and I'll bounce it back off the author to say, make sure I'm aligned. Is this what you mean? Is this the word you want to use and how you want to use it? So
Oh, that's very interesting. In terms of style guides, like you just mentioned, how do you typically follow them and choose one to use for a specific project?
If one's not given to me, because some authors come up with their own in advance, which is great. Those are authors, they're usually, well versed in it. They've worked with a lot of editors. But most authors don't have that. My go-to is the Chicago Manual of Style for fiction work. It's really the best work to use. If it's academic work, then APA, the American Psychological Association Guide, or if you're for the humanities, academic humanities is the MLA, the Modern Language Association. I don't edit medical work, but the AMA, the American Medical Association style guide is the guide of choice there. And then legal uses the Blue Book.
Okay. And do you ever find yourself handling conflicts between an author's preferences and recommendations of a style guide?
Yeah, yeah. So when that happens, I will point the author to the specific entry in the style guide and explain that entry. That way they're armed with the information. They have the same information I do. And then if they make the choice to not go with that, again, it's their work. It's not my work. I just want to make sure that I've done my job in helping to
Right.
educate them on what the norm is or what's recommended. I'll acquiesce. If there's a conflict with the publisher style guide, that's a little bit different. In that case, as an editor, I feel like it's my responsibility to say, this is the publisher style guide. And so if you may be risking your book being published, that's just a consideration.
And in terms of syntax, what are common syntax errors you encounter and how do you typically fix those?
The use of ellipses, that's
Mhm.
common. The spacing and the number of ellipses, sometimes there's 25 and sometimes, and they're, so that, and then the reason for the use, I guess that's more to the syntax question. The reason for the use, there's people will use ellipses for different things, but it's really meant to, for a long pause or a break in thought or a trailing off of a thought. And so that's very common. Um, Commas, colons, semicolons. I support the Oxford comma because it really keeps us out of trouble from a clarity perspective. So I'm a big proponent of it. Comparisons that are missing or incomplete, that's common. Incomplete thought, a sentence fragment, because of Sam, right? So you've answered it in your head, but the reader doesn't know.
Yeah.
Squinting modifiers are the big one. Squinting modifiers. So he gave a lollipop to the boy with cotton candy. Did he give a lollipop and cotton candy to the boy, or did the boy already? So it's
Right.
like making the reader do the work for you and try to figure it out is very common.
And in terms of improving skills in general, what resources do you recommend for authors looking to improve their grammar and mechanics as a whole?
If you are really into grammar and mechanics, the Chicago Manual of Style, you can't beat it. Is it my bedtime reading? Sure. Yes, it is. It's not, most people aren't going to like it, but they do have a great online resource. The Chicago Manual of Style does, and a great search engine. Their Merriam-Webster's Collegiate, the dictionary, for thesaurus, a thesaurus. Days is the best thesaurus. In my opinion, Strunken White's Element of Style, the Elements of Style, amazing. And then for punctuation, Lynn Truss has a book called Eats, Shoots, and Leaves. And when you see the cover of this book, you're going to love it and want to buy it immediately. And then the other punctuation book is The Best Punctuation Book, period, by Casagrande. I think I don't want to get her first name wrong, but it might be Julia Casagrande. That one is very fun and very clever. And of course, you all are doing some great stuff out there for writers.
Well, Jolie, thank you so much, first of all, for the plug, and second of all, for the wonderful insight on copy editing.
Thank you, Sophia. It was my pleasure.
That's all the time we have for today. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to today's interview with freelance editor Jolie Hobbs. Be sure to check out our website for more videos. Wishing you all a fulfilling and successful writing journey.